Ashton Jeanty is the true definition of a generational talent. This is not just some overnight TikTok star, he is the real deal. With at least 125 rushing yards in every single game this year, as well as at least 3 rushing touchdowns in 4 out of the first 6 games for Boise State, this junior is well on his way to winning the Heisman. Well on his way to being Barry Sanders' FBS single-season rushing record as well, considering he has 92 more rushing yards than Sanders did through 6 games. He was already blown the last running back to win the Heisman, Derrick Henry's numbers out the water through 6 games as well. Henry in 2015 had 665 rushing yards on 120 carries and 10 touchdowns, while Jeanty has 1,248 yards on 126 carries and 17 touchdowns, all while standing there, menacingly. He may very well be the poster child for non-quarterbacks that will have a real deal shot at winning the Heisman or MVP in college football. I don't think it's just CFB though. There's a real chance we will get a non-quarterback winning MVP in the NFL too. Which brings me to my title. Welcome back to Y'all Hate Sports, Part 26, Non-QB MVPs. To my casual sports watchers, there's a reason almost every single year the Heisman and NFL MVP goes to a quarterback. It is, without a doubt, the most important position in all of football. The person that leads the locker room, he has a voice on and off the field, the first person at practice, and the last person that leaves the facility. On ever so rare occasions, you get a player that outshines all that, regardless of their position. Since 2000, there have only been 4 non-QBs to win MVP. All of them running backs, which is ironic considering how replaceable running backs can be. In college, it's more or less the same. Since 2000, there have only been 4 non-QBs to win the Heisman. Technically 5 with Eric Crouch, who won it in 2001 as a wide receiver, but he was also a quarterback too that year. It's almost like pulling teeth to get a non-quarterback to win these 2 prestigious awards. Just to list a few snubs since the start of the new century. Chris Johnson could have won it in 2009. Instead, it was Peyton Manning who did lead the Colts to the Super Bowl that year, and I think team record 1000% still plays a factor when it comes to picking the MVP, and the Titans didn't even make the playoffs that year. However, CJ2K did set the NFL record for yards from scrimmage with 2,509, averaging 5.6 yards per carry and 14 touchdowns. He was the speed demon that everyone wanted to be. And his consolation prize was making it onto the Madden cover, and well, we all know how cursed that cover is. For the Heisman, we'll have to go back to 2003 when a young Larry Fitzgerald turned in the most impressive single-season performance of its time. With 92 catches for 1,672 yards and 22 touchdowns as a sophomore for Pittsburgh, he was snubbed for Oklahoma quarterback Jason White. Do you remember Jason White? Jason White remembers you. Pittsburgh finishing by that year while Oklahoma lost in the Big 12 championship and ultimately the Sugar Bowl to LSU. Oh, and Jason White went undrafted. And yes, defensive players can get snubbed too. Going back to the pros, 2014 J.J. Watt has an argument as one of the greatest defensive players of all time. With 20.5 sacks, 29 tackles for loss, and 5 touchdowns, 3 of which came when he came on offense, J.J. Watt is the only defensive player since Lawrence Taylor that has had a real chance at winning MVP. The Texans would finish 9-7 and miss the playoffs in Bill O'Brien's first year as head coach there, while then Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers would secure his second MVP and lead the Packers to the NFC Championship game where they would lose to the Seahawks. So as you can see, all the examples I've used are at the bare minimum 5 years old. But that's not a coincidence. It's very hard to make a case for a non-QB to win the top award for the college and pros. Which is why what Ashton Jeanty is doing right now is truly a spectacle. More recently in college, we've seen non-quarterbacks get a shot at winning the award and are well on their way to have 2 non-quarterbacks win the Heisman in the last 3 years. Because Devontae Smith, a wide receiver, won it back in 2021. That sort of success translates to the pros. While both the NCAA and NFL function very differently and even have different roles, the talent stays the same throughout. These guys are coming into the NFL and are painted at the top of their positions as rookies. If you look at who is leading the odds to win NFL MVP right now, the numbers aren't quite jumping off the page like they usually are. But the exception of Lamar Jackson, the next closest is Patrick Mahomes, who doesn't necessarily look like Patrick Mahomes this year. Josh Allen, whose offense has been stagnant for some reason the last 2 weeks. Hell, even CJ Stroud, who's still going through growing pains his second year in the league. It takes a while before we even get to a non-quarterback to win MVP this year, with Derrick Henry currently listed at plus 6,000 to win it. But if you look at Henry's numbers, 119 carries, 704 yards, and 8 touchdowns so far, he will certainly have a case at the end of the year at the rate he's going. Same thing for someone like Justin Jefferson, who is still producing even after a lot of people wrote Minnesota off at the beginning of the year. Posing 26 catches for 450 yards and 4 touchdowns, he is currently listed at plus 10,000 to win it. Those 2 would be the 2 most valid options to have a shot at MVP anyway. Guys like Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott, hell, even rookie quarterback Caleb Williams are all getting more of a chance than a Henry or a Jefferson. These guys most likely will be in contention for Offensive Player of the Year, which is basically the not exclusive enough to win MVP, but talented enough to be considered the best offensive player award. Vice versa for any defensive player that wants to go all for the rest of the season. This year I think is different though because of how wide open everything is right now. The context of this video can either age like milk or wine, depending on who stays healthy and who steps up for their teams. One thing is for sure though, non-quarterback positions have a seat at the table when it comes to being a Heisman winner or an MVP. I use the phrase generational talent to describe Ashton Jeanty because he is doing generational things. It's a phrase that gets thrown around way too much nowadays, but one thing is for sure, for the last 8 combined winners in the Heisman and MVP, in the college and the pros, they had to have played at a generational level to even get considered. So the guys like Ashton Jeanty, Travis Hunter, Derrick Henry, Justin Jefferson, good luck. You're gonna need it. Make sure to check me out on my socials, Philly vs. the World, all across the board. Especially on Twitch, I stream every Monday and Tuesday, and we'll be streaming a lot more this month as well. My name is Philly Cameron. I will see you guys for the next part of Y'all Hate Sports.